ultimately what you want to do with your music is you want to master your practice routine. You don't want to worry actually about necessarily about like what do I things do I play. I mean that's important kind of, but like if you have a teacher, they'll basically just make sure that you're focusing on the right stuff. Your only job is to make sure that you master your practice routine. And so, what does it mean to master your practice routine? So, I mean, some students they do like most students will do like probably 30 minutes. Is kind of like the upper average for a lot of students, most students, and then about maybe 10 minutes would be like the lower average for like kind of middle students, and then you've got some students who don't do any practice at all, and their only practice is literally just showing up for the lesson. Um, and I've had students who they never practice, but they only ever show up for the lesson, and they still do progress. Because obviously I teach them stuff during the lesson and it's just much slower. And so yeah, one of the big things with practice is just trying to practice as much as humanly possible. And I know obviously we have other things that we want to do in our lives. So you have to try to figure out ways in order to practice that will actually be fun, or like that you can pair with other stuff that you're doing. So like um, if you're practicing like while I'm watching a TV show and I'm just practicing going diddle 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 or something like that on guitar, or watching a TV show I'm just playing like a scale on the piano, or just improvising or something on the piano while I don't know. Sometimes what I would do is I'd be sitting in the in the passenger seat when I was younger, and my dad would be driving around, and I have my guitar, and I'd just be jamming while we were in the car. And although that's a little trickier to do because obviously the guitar is bigger, so what I would do sometimes is I would bring like sometimes you can get like a smaller size guitar, or you can even just get like a ukulele, and you can a lot of the patterns cross transfer to the guitar from the ukulele, and vice versa. So that can be a good option. Also, you can gamify things, so you could be like, if you play like 10 minutes or if you practice your notes for 10 minutes or something, then you can, play a video game or watch a TV show that you really like for 10 minutes. Something like that can be cool. Um, Another one would probably be, oh, you probably good to kind of tell people, especially if you are younger and you need help. You could probably remind people around you, hey, like I tell my younger students to tell their parents that they need help being reminded to practice. So just basically to tell their parents that, and then hopefully their parents can kind of act as like a artificial prefrontal cortex to kind of like help remind the kid, because a lot of kids they don't really have the their brains aren't fully formed yet, right? So they're basically just like the prefrontal cortex isn't entirely formed yet. So if they get sucked into a video game or some type of like fun thing that they watch it on like TV or something like that, or on YouTube or whatever, on TikTok and stuff, then they might get just locked into that doom scroll for hours, right? And literally not do anything except that. And that's not always the worst thing, because you can learn a lot of stuff through those, and I've learned a lot of stuff through like YouTube and stuff like that. It's just that, and also if you're doing that, you can also do that while you're practicing, like I was saying earlier with the guitar, and you just kind of practice some mindless dexterity stuff while you're watching a show or something. And that's fine, but sometimes the students need a reminder, especially when they're a kid, that like their parents step in, they say, "Hey, by the way, I want you to remember to practice." And but then the thing is, they have to peel themselves away from their TV or something, or their video game, um, in order to practice, which is like a tricky thing because, obviously it's not as much. It's like kind of emotionally painful to like, oh, let's do this mindless thing where I'm having fun with like these flashing colors and interesting stories and funny jokes and lots of mental stimulation. And now I'm just gonna, stare at my guitar and kind of play some scales or chords, or even if it's fun songs that you like, that can sometimes not be enough. It's not as much as flashy, especially when you're first starting the song, as like playing a video game or something like that, which is specifically designed to be as addictive as possible. So what I have, what I would used to do when I was younger is I would be like playing a video game and have like my guitar beside me. So like you can see, I can just grab my guitar here. It's like right there, bing, bang, boom. And when I'm playing a video game, what I would do is funny stuff like I would be, I would literally just be playing like a battle video game, the ones where you kind of like fight, the two characters fight against each other, uh, kind of like Mortal Kombat kind of game. And if my character died or lost the battle, then I would have to do like 5 push-ups or something like that. So that was like a little game I would play with myself to kind of like get myself to, basically just do more push-ups, to remember to do more push-ups, and also to get better at the game, because obviously I would start getting tired and I wouldn't want to do as many push-ups. But I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I beat this next boss or this next level, so I don't have to do more push-ups, right? So you can do stuff like that, but you could also do it in a way where like I had this one student, he was getting like 4 hours of practice every day. And when I asked him why, he said how he was doing that, because that's really crazy, right? Like most students do like 30 minutes per day. So when I was like, okay, well, how are you getting like 4 hours of practice? And he said he was playing like Call of Duty kind of thing. And whenever he would do the same thing. Whenever his character would die, he would pick up his guitar and just kind of like jam out some of the little riffs or whatever that he's been working on. And so yeah, he was getting a lot of practice in like that, and he was really building up his dexterity and stuff that way. And then yeah, you can do it too, but basically just playing whatever video game. And some video games are different, so like you don't really, like I played this one video game like Civilization kind of game, but it's called Rome Total War. And basically you click like you move all your characters and like what you want to do for the year, basically. Like, do you want to tax people more? Do you want to send your army into this continent or something? And do you want to make more soldiers? Do you want to make more public spaces? Anyways, you do all your moves and stuff, and then you click this button that says start or end the year. So you click the end the year, and then it goes, and then that's the end of the turn. So it's kind of like you've ended your turn on like a board game or something. And so what I could do is, after I've ended my turn, I could pick up the guitar and just play like, play a couple songs or something. So every time I end the turn, I have to play one of my songs or something. That could be a little game that I play. But honestly, one of my favorite ones, and a really simple one to do, is for every minute that you play your instrument or whatever thing that you want to, do more of. For every minute you do that, you get 1 minute of whatever fun thing you want to do. So like, I would play my, like I would do like 10 minutes of just like sight reading notes or something. And then after that, I could do whatever 10-minute fun thing I want to do. So I could like, I could do 10 minutes of watching a TV show I really wanted to watch. The thing is, like, a TV show isn't just 10 minutes long. So it's like, like usually TV shows are like, 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long, right? So like, let's say you just do 10 minutes and you get like halfway through the show, and then you pause because the timer, here's my timer here, your timer runs out, and it beep, 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 it lets you know like, oh, you just ran out of time. And so you got to get more points so that you can continue watching your show. And you're halfway through your show and you're like, oh, I want to finish my show. So it's kind of like incentivizes you to like actually want to get more points because you want to continue your show. So yeah, those are just some like different ideas of how you can practice more. But yeah, one of the things I wrote today was basically like, one of the things I've been noticing for teaching is that I used to think like teaching was about like showing people, like the benefit that students would get was from me showing them what to work on. And that's definitely true. Like, we have access to the internet now, and you'd think that because we have the internet, we have AI and stuff like that, people would know exactly what to focus on. But the thing is, it's not super personalized yet. And they've got those like games and stuff as well, like Musician and all that. But it's not like super personalized yet, wherein like a teacher can like really see what your goals are and really see like what kind of musics you would like and what would fit your level, and like really really specific like that. And they can give you and what you struggle with and what you would what you really need to work on. And so the teacher can like really give you that specific, like, oh, just do this thing for the week and you should be good. And then you can kind of turn your brain off. You don't have to think about that anymore, and you can just kind of like, I'm just going to practice this thing, right? And so that's one really good benefit of having a teacher. But one of the things that I think a lot of people overlook is, and I was even overlooking, is that the accountability factor of like, having to show up every week for your 30-minute lesson. Even if you haven't practiced all week, you still show up for your lesson. And I find that's really powerful in the sense of like, even if you haven't practiced, you kind of get that reminder every week. You kind of get like set on the right course. You get encouraged for what you're supposed to work on and stuff like that. And I think that little kick in the butt every week of kind of just like a little spark of motivation and and just kind of being forced back into it again, because like maybe you don't do it on your own, but the fact that you had to show up for your like, some people, they don't practice the entire week, but then they'll show up for their lesson and they'll practice everything that we do in the lesson. And really the only difference is that I'm there essentially, and I'm guiding them, right? So, and I think a part of why that's so effective is that the student, there's kind of like they feel more it's kind of like a runner group, like if you have a group of people, friends, and like you don't want to exercise, but your friends, you wake up in the morning, you said you were going to go for a run, and you wake up and you're like, nah. If it was just you, you might just roll over and be like, nah, I'm too tired or something. But let's say instead your friend came over and they're like knocking on your door, or even if they weren't knocking on your door, but you just knew that you had to meet your friend at a certain location at a certain time, and you had that like sense of responsibility and kind of accountability to like be there, and that pushes them enough over the edge of actually getting up and doing the thing and actually following through. So I think that's one really big thing that's really important about actually taking lessons, is that kind of accountability factor, and that like having that weekly kind of kick in the butt, that like spark of motivation that kind of pushes them even to kind of get the ball rolling, even if they haven't done it all week. Because what can happen with a lot of people is that they'll basically if they stop practicing, and I do this too sometimes too, stop practicing for a while, and you don't have anything that kind of like kicks you back into the schedule of it, or the reoccurring pattern of it, habit that basically kicks you back into the habit of doing it, then you might go like months or sometimes even years of like not doing anything at all with it, right? So the fact that you have that once a week that kind of just reminds you, to kind of get you going, to continue to kind of keep it a bit in your mind. I even say that sometimes for students with practice, where I say like, even if you do like a little bit of practice every day, that even can be really beneficial, because even if it's like 1 minute, 1 minute's better than no minute for one, but also 1 minute you can basically like, you kind of get the juices flowing a bit. So even if you only do 1 minute and then you stop, and then the rest of the day you don't practice at all, you kind of got the juices flowing. You kind of got the neurons and the circuits kind of firing and stuff like that. And so even though you only physically practice for 1 minute, you actually ended up practicing longer than that, because maybe you practiced for 1 minute and you got the ball rolling in your mind, you got the juices flowing and stuff. And then you have to go drive somewhere, you have to go make some toast or something. I always like to give the example of making toast for some reason. It's just something that comes to mind. But yeah, you have to go make some toast or something, and as you push the thing down to make the toast, and as you're buttering the toast or whatever, in the back of your mind, you're still kind of thinking about that thing that you practiced, even if it was just for 1 minute. So even the fact that you're kind of in the background thinking about that thing that you practiced, that can actually be a form of practice. Because there's like different forms of practice, right? You've got like the actually sitting down and playing, and then you've got the just imagining yourself playing, literally just closing your eyes and imagining yourself playing, and you've even got like, and that would kind of fall into the kind of imagining yourself playing a bit, but that was sparked on by having played a little bit. So sometimes you play a little bit. It's kind of like one time I used to play. Sometimes I would play this game called Guitar Hero, and you've got like the things coming towards you, like the colored things for the buttons that you got to click at the right time. And I remember one time after I was done playing, I went and like laid down somewhere, closed my eyes, and all I could see in my mind was like these like colored note things like coming at me. And it's because I'd played that game basically for such a long time that even when I was closing my eyes, I was still there. I was like still seeing it. So like that's that form of like you're still practicing. And I'm sure you've actually had that a lot before too, where you like did something for a long time and then you went away from it for a bit and you're just kind of like, you close your eyes and you're just trying to pass out or something, or you're just taking a break and you close your eyes and you imagine you can still kind of see whatever patterns of it in your mind. And then because of that, you have some type of like insight or breakthrough, and then you get up and you want to like run over to the thing again to like start doing it again. So yeah, so that's another form of practice that you can do. And yeah, just try to think as much as you can about different ways that you can practice. Now, one of the things too is in terms of like we were talking about practice mastery, and so practice mastery being like one of the most important things that you want to focus on. Like you don't necessarily want to focus on mastering your instrument. What you want to focus on is mastering your practice routine, because if you master your practice routine, then you will master your instrument as like kind of like just inevitably as a result of just having mastered your practice routine. But if you don't master your practice routine, then it'll be kind of like here and there and everywhere, and you won't really progress as consistently as you should. So try to really master that practice routine. Another one people find is really useful is setting a specific time every day connected to something that they already do. So like, after you eat dinner, or maybe when you just wake up, or maybe after you eat breakfast, or when you just come home from school, or when you just come home from work, or different things like that. So you're kind of connecting it with other things. So, and I guess the reason why that works is because when that time comes, it just feels like, oh, I've got to do that thing now. We're talking about different types of practice mastery, and there's something else I wanted to talk about with that, but I can't really remember. But so different types of practice mastery. What you can do is basically you want to try to do a couple things. Like you can practice in different ways. Like you could practice actually playing the instrument and in terms of playing the instrument, you could practice theory with like just playing like scales and stuff, which is definitely something you can do when you're kind of just like watching TV, because it's kind of a mindless activity. Or like the one I really like to do was these arpeggios. Right, those arpeggios are very like just kind of repeats the pattern over and over again. So again, it's kind of mindless. You don't even have to really watch it while you do it once you get good with that pattern. Another way you can practice while you're at your instrument is like just improvising around. Like if like right now I know this is like all the natural notes. Like these are E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so because I know that pattern, what you can do first is just technique wise, would just be practicing the scale by just climbing up and down it, like ascend and then descend. But then the next level you can take those things like that is you can you can um, you can you can kind of play around with it a bit. So you can, right? And so that's just kind of a technique of like, you know, you play a chord, you play a scale. And so if you know, it's pretty simply like every key signature has like three chords, three major chords, three minor chords, and then you've got a scale associated with that. So for A minor, the A minor key signature, the three minor chords are A minor, E minor, and D. Hold on, I'm a bit out of tune. So the three chords are in A minor is A minor, E minor, and D minor. And the three major chords are C major, F major, and G. So you can kind of do those in any kind of progression that you like. In any like you could go like, you know, A minor, C major, E minor, D minor. I'm just kind of choosing them at random, and you can also kind of follow your ear with it as well. But yeah, so I do like, maybe you do like an A minor, and then you play a little, the scale associated with that is this scale. Okay, so if, because if you know that scale, then you can, okay, so that's another way you can practice, is kind of like, just, I love that way of practice. It's called improvising or jamming, some people say. And the reason why I love that is because, like, if you just practice scales, like, those can get pretty boring and tedious after a while, right? Because you're just climbing up and down, climbing up and down. It's the same thing over and over. Whereas, you know, doing an improv is more like, you're actually kind of playing around with it. You know, the analogy I give is kind of like, playing a scale would be, it's like as if you're exercising, doing your cardio by like walking on a treadmill, you know, or running on a treadmill. Whereas doing like an improv, kind of playing around, is more like, you know, dynamic in a way. It's more like getting your cardio by playing tag with your friends. You know, like, just walking on a treadmill staring at a wall, it's kind of like you're still getting your cardio, but you're just kind of staring at a wall. Whereas if you're playing, you know, tag with your friends or something, then like maybe you're hiding at first and you kind of duck down, so you're doing kind of squats, kind of, right? And then your friend sees you and then you start running really fast because they're like just about to catch up, and then they, you know, maybe they trip or something, and then you run behind like a building or something, and then, you know, you stop for a bit to catch your breath and try to hide again. And, you know, there's like more interesting things in it, you know, or like playing soccer or something, right? You have to like deke around people and like work with your teammates and stuff like that. So it can be more mentally engaging. So yeah, those are different forms of practice. Also, there's the right hand form of practice where you literally do just something simple like this, or just these two fingers just back and forth. Although I would say to at least do these three fingers, like ring, middle, index. And that's kind of boring too, but you could try to, If you want to make that even more interesting, you go thumb on A, and then these 3 fingers on little E. And if you're not sure what to hit, just hit anything. Let's see if it sounds good. Like if I hit, that sounds good, right? But if I hit like, I already know this is gonna, hold on. That one's gonna sound weird. I already know that one sounds weird. But let's say you did hit that, and you're like, oh, I don't like that. Then just notice where it is, and then just don't hit that one anymore, and just kind of move around. And so then you finally hit this one. You're like, oh, this one sounds good. So then you're like, okay, let's try this one. So now you've got these two. I'm gonna move up one, and then you've got these 3. Right, but then I go up another one, and I'm like, oh, I don't really want that one there. Or maybe you kind of like it, so you throw that one in. The thing is, you just notice the ones that you don't like the sound of, and then you just avoid those ones. But this one, the thing with this one is actually not necessarily a bad note. Like people think like, oh, it's a good note or a bad note. But I don't think of it as good note or bad note. I think of it as like consonant or harmonious is a better word. Maybe most people know the word harmonious. Harmonious and dissonant. And dissonant gives you the feeling of, and harmonious gives you the feeling of, right? So it's like tension and release essentially. And that's the basis of basically a lot of art, right? Isn't that basically the basis of like all art? Is that tension and release, and you have that a lot in like TV shows, like, something happened. Like one of the examples I give is like, there's the tension of like, oh, he's hanging on a cliff and he's about to fall. He's like, no, he's going to die. He's going to fall. And then he falls, no. And then he lands on a griffin, and then he's saved, and the griffin flies off. And you're like, he's saved, right? So that note there is dissonant, gives you that feeling of, but you can resolve it to one of the consonant ones. Or you could just try to stick with the consonant ones if you want it to sound, just kind of pleasant and stuff. And you just kind of get to know the different patterns and stuff like that. But if you don't know any of the patterns, you can literally just follow. You just follow your ear, and you just go. Like a good example would be like you hit like a E. Let's say like a low E with your thumb, and then just choose a note on the little E. Maybe hit one you don't like. Actually, that one I kind of like that one. There you go. There's one. But that's dissonant, so you can resolve it. Okay, and that's just playing around on one string. You can actually start to move it to other strings. Maybe just the little E and the B string. Anyways, I'm really familiar with these patterns, and I have a good way of hearing where I am now. So even if I kind of don't know where I am, I know that if I move up a semitone, it'll still work and stuff. But you can kind of train your ear, and literally a lot of that was just me messing around, jamming, just playing around, jamming with friends, or just doing exactly what I just did there, where I was just kind of vibing and just rocking my own tune there and stuff. So that's another way you can practice. But I was going to say, like, another way you can practice is you don't even need the instrument. Like you could, a good one for like the note recognition stuff. You can get like note recognition games on your phone, and you could just sit there and just practice note recognition games. If you don't have a note recognition, I've been building some pretty cool note recognition games on my website, devonshiremusic.com. So, and for guitar, I mean. But if you're looking for something for guitar, for note recognition stuff, I've got a really good one on my website. And so just let me know and I'll send you the link to it or something. Or try to see if you can find it yourself on my website under devonshiremusic.com. And yeah, so that's one of the ways, because the cool thing about that is you don't need the instrument. You can kind of just sit there and just, be laying. The cool thing about that too is you could be like, kicking back on like a nice couch or something, or even on your bed and just kind of relaxing, and you're still able to practice essentially. And then another really interesting way of practicing is just literally picking up a piece of sheet music, picking it up. And if you can do this, some people, obviously for a lot of beginners, they can't do this because it's just really difficult to just sight read sheet music in general, not even with the fact that they would have to, sight read the sheet music without even having an instrument there. So, but yeah, you can definitely do that. I just wanted to show you that that's a level that you can take it to. Whereas basically you open up like a piece of sheet music and you just look at the sheet music and you go, okay, that's a D, and you imagine in your mind the guitar in your mind or the piano in your mind. You go, okay, well the D would be here, right? You don't even have to move your hand, but you just kind of imagine, the piano and your hand in your mind playing that note. And you could even go further with it too. If you're really good, you could try to do it where when you hit that note, you also hear the sound that that note makes. And now that's a lot trickier because in order to do that, you have to really train your ear. But anyways, ultimately what you can do is literally practice without even having your instrument. You can practice pieces by just looking at them, at the sheet music, and imagining yourself playing it. So that's another form of practice. But anyways, I think that's probably, I don't really know what else I would talk about now, so we'll just wrap it up there. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out, and if you're interested in lessons, feel free to reach out, and we'll see what we can make happen. I only have a certain amount of spots that I can fill, so obviously I'm just one person, so, but I'm trying to become to kind of maybe create some group lessons or something like that, so that could help with more students and kind of condense it into a space so I can kind of scale and help more people, and some other ideas and stuff. But right now I'm just doing like one-on-one lessons, so if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out, and yeah, rock on.